views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Enough, 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 enough. Enough, 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 enough,
Wow. Hey, everybody. Yes, you are tuned into the Dr. Pat Show. There's a reason why we played that song, and you're going to hear from Laurie McCammon right now in a minute. She is the author of the book Enough, How to Liberate Yourself and Remake the World with Just One Word. It's a seriously important word to begin with, and I just want to say with that, and the reason it's a seriously important word is for reasons that you'll hear from, from Laurie today, but more importantly, when Laurie comes to speak at the upcoming Women of Wisdom Conference, and that's February 16th through the 20th in North Seattle. The reason that this is important is because what else is there to say? If we truly believe, if we truly embrace, if we truly pass and pay that forward, what is the energy of that? Not just, I am enough, you are enough, we are enough. Laurie, it's great to have you here. Wow.
It's wonderful to be here with you.
Yeah. Say a little bit about, the music's fabulous. We're going to play some other tracks from it throughout the show today, throughout the hour, actually. I want to talk with you about the upcoming Women of Wisdom conference, but before we jump to that, I want to talk about the word enough. I know that since you and I chatted last time, I've talked about this word to a number of people, and everybody agrees, yeah, it is one of the most powerful ideas, but I've got to tell you, Laurie, it is like one of the more difficult things to enact in our lives. I'd like to hear you weigh in on that for a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think the reason for it is if we don't take a deep enough dive into our relationship with that word enough, we tend to stay at the surface level where it's hard to change things. And I think if you look at the self-help industry in general, even the name self-help, the underlying message is that we aren't enough, that we have to fix ourselves, that there's something wrong with us that we then need to improve or make better. And I think then when we try to follow the advice of someone who's trying to give us advice around, how could we improve our lives, we have to overcome the resistance that we have, the feelings of shame and self-blame that we have, that we haven't been somehow doing it right up until now. So I feel like the key to really getting to the depths of this enough message is to understand that it is something that we're all suffering from. We aren't to blame, in other words. We are the canaries in the coal mine, so to speak, who are noticing that something is not working, that we are not happy, that there's a lot of suffering on our planet, that there's a lot of people who don't have enough. And the reason is this underlying cultural belief system of never enough that has been in action for 5,000 years. And that's a long time for us to, to sort of get embedded in it and forget that it was a choice, that it's an idea. It's not a hard and fast rule for how the world works. In fact, my research really showed that we have a very narrow and distorted view as human beings of how the universe works, how nature works, and why it works. And it works because it's an enough story. So tapping into that universal enough story, which is, it's been a success story for 13.8 billion years, is, I believe, the key to unlocking our own human potential and feeling really good about being bringers of a new story for humanity and for our planet.
This is really one of the conversations that you're going to bring to the conference. I wanted to ask you this question. What has changed for you since you've written the book? And the reason I asked that question, there are a lot of things going on in the world right now. Everything from conversations of disbelief in our politics to declassifying, a Russian leader that has killed a lot of people. And there are folks that are very confused about this word. And it comes up in this way, Laurie, and I'd love for you to talk about it. I'm not doing enough. I don't believe I'm doing enough. And I think we get confused, and that's why I'm so anxious and eager to talk with you about it today.
Okay, sure. Well, let me address that issue first, and then I'll tell you how my life has changed since really embedding in this message. This idea that we're not doing enough is that we're still, it's that same self-help issue, the underlying I'm not enough, which is where we blame ourselves for what's wrong out there. So we create a burden upon ourselves to try to change everything that the system itself is not empowering us to change. So we get in this sort of self-reinforcing loop of not being able to make change happen in a satisfactory and quick enough way, and then we become defeatist. At the same time, we're beating ourselves up about what we're not doing. So I think the whole thing is to understand that entire dynamic, that self-defeating loop, was actually created by the never enough paradigm. So as long as we're living by that mindset, by that value system, we're going to get caught up in that and become disempowered. I believe the way out of that is to understand that is not where we should be placing our allegiance to. In other words, when we see a world that's not working well, we see a lot of injustices happening, and our hearts are pulled in the direction of trying to make a greater change, it's really important for us to be centered on what we want versus what we don't want, because it's so easy to get caught up in the drama, the conflict, the name-calling, and this idea of separation of ourselves and someone whose ideas may be different than ours. So we have to understand that kind of divide and conquer mentality, which is the birthplace really of racism and sexism and any kind of ism that causes suffering is a divide and conquer mindset. Now, what I'm advocating is a leap to what I call the we are enough mindset. And that is where we deeply know that we are enough to bring some kind of gift to bear on what the world needs. And when our reference point comes from within us, from what we want, from the dreams that we have, the visions that we have, and where those intersect with our own values, our own gifts, that is where not only, we change the world, but that's where we find our sense of fulfillment and joy and jubilation. And when we join with other people who have other gifts, see, this is where we think we have to do it all. It's not about that. It's about bringing ourselves to bear in partnership with people who have other skills that are just as valuable, and we combine those, and that's where change happens.
Yeah. I am really, really loving the message that you're bringing forth, really loving the idea. And it's so important to have it show up from your perspective, and to have it come to the forefront so that we can understand and make sense out of our own lives first, right? I think in the book you refer to something as giving birth to ourselves. And I would love for you to talk about that, because that was a big awakening for me. I didn't realize I was giving birth to myself when I decided I'm going to go back to school, or I decided to step into this thing that we're calling positive radio 14 years ago. But once I read what you were talking about, I kind of got it. So isn't it for you to help us remember this in some strange way?
That's so true. I think we're so outward focused. And let's face it, in a world where media is so available on every single device, and we've got our eyes to, a smartphone, a tablet, or a TV almost all the time, it's so easy to forget that really the source of our reality, first and foremost, is within us, within our own thought patterns, within our own beliefs, within our own habitual patterns that we have set down in our lives. So if we really want to access happiness and fulfillment, we, of course, have to know ourselves. We have to be familiar with who we are, what we care about, what's our passion in life. And I think that's really the key, is to really spend some time with ourselves. Give us the time to not be out there doing and achieving, all the time, but to have that quiet time where we get to just be with ourselves, go within and really touch in with who we are and what we want to bring forth in the world. And so in that way, we really can't birth a different world until we birth our authentic selves, because the alternative is that we are scrambling to meet the needs and standards that are coming at us from a very busy, demanding world. And if we don't allow time for us to source our essence from within, we are going to be, feel like we're on a, roller coaster ride, and we're not in charge of it. So, that's the shift that I'm advocating, is that when you really get in alignment with your values and create from that, that is how the world will become more in alignment with who you are, and you will start attracting people and resources that go along with that.
Yeah, what I would love to do is, let's take a short break. When we come back, we're gonna talk with Laurie about what the message is in this upcoming Women of Wisdom conference, but also to talk about, what is it? What is the sense of freedom that each of us can step into and truly liberate ourselves? And how, if we don't, there might be something that shows up we're not exactly sure about. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
you want to relax more, feel happier, and be more confident? Do you want to have more success in your life? Dave Dodge has some easy, effective methods to help you release your anxiety, worry, fear, depression, and even physical pain. Tune in to Stress Buster Radio with Dave Dodge every second Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. For more information on how Dave can help you release your stress, visit StressBusterRadio.com. Skype and phone sessions are available.
How would you like increased health and vitality? How would you like to avoid the onset of disease as well as slow the aging process? This is all possible through a simple, safe, and natural process. Every day we are either moving toward wellness or away from wellness.
Hi, I'm Mary Jane Mack. I'd like to be your partner in achieving optimal health. Contact me now at maryjanemack.com or call 425-392-0659. Visit maryjanemack.com.
Beyond being this amazing neurologist, inventor, author, Dr. Dan Cohen has been called to look at technology and look at personal and spiritual development and merge these together. His technology uses the healing and psychospiritual effects of synchronized sounds, vibrations, electromagnetic fields, and how that interacts with us in our nervous system in what we're calling the Soul Tech chair.
The Soul Tech Lounge induces profound levels of relaxation that transition over time into deep meditative states. The synchronized sound, vibration, and magnetic field induce these states. The subject doesn't have to work at it.
To learn more, go to soultechwellbeing.com. That's SOLTEC Wellbeing.
Registration is now open for the 25th Annual Women of Wisdom Conference. Join the fabulous presenters from around the country on February 16th through the 20th. If you believe in raising the feminine spirit and transforming our world, then this conference is for you. Get your tickets now. One-day and full weekend passes are available. For more information about presenters and tickets, visit womenofwisdom.org. That's womenofwisdom.org.
What if your body and mind were the compasses to the secrets, mysteries, and magic of life? Glenna Rice, co-host of The Questionable Parent, is inviting you to access all that is possible. Glenna is a 10-year certified veteran access consciousness facilitator who offers an amazing variety of life-changing classes and workshops. Work with Glenna from anywhere, with teleclasses and workshops all over the globe. To learn more and see Glenna's current schedule of events, classes, and workshops, visit glennarice.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Laurie, before we kind of jump off, first of all, tell folks how they can find out more about you and get a copy of your book, but also tell them a bit about what you're going to be doing at the upcoming conference.
Sure. So you can reach me at www.weareenough.com, and my book should be available pretty much at any online retailer, maybe even your local bookstore. So you can do that. It's called Enough: How to Liberate Yourself and Remake the World with Just One Word. Mm-hmm. At the conference, I'm going to be keynoting the beginning of the conference, and during that, I'm going to give everybody an overview of the evidence that there is from all these wonderful areas: quantum science, emerging technology, social movements, archetypal psychology, neuroscience, and more. About that support that enough is actually the underlying dynamic of the entire universe. And I will be able to knit together that story and have you see that we are living in an unprecedented time on Earth in which we are returning to that universal story. Humanity's been on this sort of diversion from that for a while.
Wow. This is part of an ongoing conversation that you've had traveling the world. Before the break, what I said is, let's talk about the word enough. And, what happens when we don't trust in the process? Meaning, if we don't trust in the process, we may manifest some things that we truly don't want to manifest. And I would love for you to talk about that because you share that in the book as well, and I'm sure you're going to be talking about it at the conference.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's so many times when we default back to the old scarcity mindset, and part of that is not trusting divine timing. For one thing, I just feel that the universe is always in support of our highest good. So what might look like a failure to us is actually a retuning of where our gifts can better match what is needed in the world. And so often we get thrown off by an outer image about where we should be, what we should do, what it should look like. And so we're blocking what it really should look like for us. And so part of it is that we have to be willing to be open to resources coming to us from totally unexpected places and at unexpected times, and not put this time limit on it. I think we've, part of the never enough culture is sort of an adolescent instant gratification kind of thing. We were talking in the break about the drive-through mentality that we have, thinking that we can, instantly gratify ourselves in all these ways. But, anything meaningful takes time. And we have to just be trusting enough to not block any of the avenues that the universe has to bring us our highest good. And this is really, I think, a big part of this. And another is, I think, to be more in the now moment. I think we get into fear when we project too far into the future. So just really focus on the now moment and what's arising in you to be done today in support of your gifts.
Yeah, I want to just talk. I know we only have a few minutes left, but I want to really talk about what some people are confused about, and that is that this space of being called enough sometimes could mean to people, I don't have to do anything. And I think it is kind of a confusion we have and have had in the spiritual community. But if that were the case, you wouldn't have written the book.
Right. Oh, no. I think enough is tapping into infinite potential. And it really is opening up a wider lens for action, a wider lens for happiness, for making things different in the world. I work with this group of women, and we've been working on creating a guidebook. And time and again, we find that there's just so much opens up because we're taking action on trying to spread the enough word and help each other with it. And it's the weaving that we have together when we do that that creates all these magical things, including really deep conversations and transformative experiences that we're sharing with each other. So, I just think that, meaning that you have enough, it means you just sit still. No, I mean, action is really where our lives can take a new direction. We have to take action. We can't just sit back. But the action needs to be guided by our highest visions, not by opposition, because opposition to what is a trap. Sort of like, the war on drugs didn't eradicate drugs. So it's that kind of thing. So what you focus on grows. So really getting in touch with our dreams and visions and finding other people to do it with us is what we need right now. And what we see happening, like Standing Rock is a perfect example. And the upcoming Women's March on Washington. These are all happening right now and showing that there is this wave of doing, this wave of gathering together our collective aspirations for the way the world should be.
Yeah, I think that, for a lot of us, we hold a level of consciousness sometimes and teeter between, looking at enough, I am enough, I am enough. And yet we live in a world that compares. And I wanted to ask you this last question. What have you found the best way to help folks be in that place of non-comparison? And what I mean by that is, everything from, the home somebody else has, to a commercial you hear on TV. We are bombarded every day with those kinds of distractions. What would you say to folks to step into the space that holds the consciousness of enough? Thank you, Laurie, for joining me here today. I wanted to ask you one last question. What's your personal message, and what would you like to leave us with?
Well, I think I would like to leave you with just this hopeful message that, when I was researching enough, I learned that the etymology of the word, which was such a surprise to me, comes from the word get and na in the Old English, which means together we rise. And so I feel this is the energy that's here now, that we can tap into now, and it's available to all of us to tap into our enoughness, our collective enoughness, in a world that is enough for everyone.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Laurie, give out your website again if you can.
Sure, www.weareenough.com.
Awesome. Hey, everybody, we're going to take a short break. We will be right back.